everybody. I'm Mekale Chapple. I'm currently a nurse at the Oklahoma City VA. It's a Veterans Affairs hospital. So that's me.
Where did you go to school, and tell us about school?
From preschool to my senior year of high school, I went to Millwood Public Schools. It's in Oklahoma City. At the time, I wanted to be a pediatrician, so I did their biosciences program, which I'm kind of glad I did, because they had a program that was directed toward nursing. But at the time, I didn't want to be a nurse. I wanted to be a pediatrician. So I took the biosciences courses, which had like AP chemistry, took statistics. I took a lot of classes that dealt with science, anatomy and physiology. It was a good time, and I actually used those classes a lot, which prepared me for nursing when I decided I wanted to do nursing. Also, starting my sophomore year, I started doing concurrent enrollment. So that's doing college while I was in high school. At first, I was nervous because, I was just in 10th grade and I was in classes with, freshmen and sophomores who were in college. So I was really nervous about that, but I did really good. I took some English literature classes and I'm not going to lie, I took the college credit classes because I wanted to be valedictorian. And the girl that was close with me in ranks to be valedictorian, she had a good GPA as well. But at Millwood, if you had the same GPA, the only thing that would separate you for the valedictorian spot was whoever had the most concurrent enrollment classes. So I enrolled in those classes. I was nervous, but I did pretty good. And I remember feeling good about myself because I was only in high school and I was doing well in these college courses. It also prepared me too to know what the college classroom was like. So I was happy about that. Then my senior year, I ended up being valedictorian. The girl she was upset, she was mad, but I was happy. And I was valedictorian that year. So then my senior year, it was time for college, for real this time. And I got a athletic scholarship and an academic scholarship because in high school, I stayed busy. I did school, but I also was in sports year round. I entered college as a sophomore, so I wasn't a freshman. I had already had enough college credits to be done with my first year. So I entered college as a sophomore. I only had to do one more year before I entered their nursing program. The nursing program, you have to enter as a junior, and then you do your 2 years, junior and senior year, in the nursing program. So I got accepted into the nursing program. It was hard. It was hard just because I had to maintain my scholarships. I couldn't be like, well, I need to concentrate on my studies, so I'm just going to stop playing basketball. I could have, but then I'd have to figure out where I was going to get all this money from to stay in school. So I kind of just buckled down. When I was on the bus rides for games, I was studying. I couldn't really make excuses, and I was nervous as well because I'm in a different state. I don't have my mom and my dad and my sisters and my brothers there to hold my hand and tell me how bad they feel for me. I didn't really have time for that. So I did a lot of growing up in college. And I enjoyed nursing just because it did have those science courses. Those type of things interest me. It's amazing how much science is in real world. And I know when I was you guys' age, I was just like, I just want a career that's going to give me a lot of money. And that's it. And, science to me at the time just seemed so confusing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is just too much. But it's in everything. Everything you do involves science. There's not anything that you're going to do that does not have some type of science base. So when you get involved in that, and there's so many opportunities, you can do so much with it. You don't have to do nursing. Like what I've been told, you guys have spoken to other people. There's chemists, there's biologists, there's all kind of things with science and STEM in general. So that was fun. It wasn't that, it was hard, but I was so interested in the nursing courses and things that it kind of made it worth it. After I finished nursing school, I was also still playing basketball. But after I finished nursing school, I ended up graduating. So I graduated in 3 years, and I graduated cum laude, which means you have to have a GPA over 3.5, which I had to keep that anyway. I wanted so bad to get magna cum laude, which you have to have like a 3.68 or we had to have a 3.7 or something like that. And I was like barely missed it. I'm very competitive. So that definitely was something I wish, I would have buckled down a little bit harder if I wasn't buckling down even more. But that was that. I graduated, decided that I did not want to do my last year of eligibility with basketball. I love basketball, but in college, for me, at least, it became more of a job. It was like, I got to keep this scholarship. So my passion for it kind of changed. So I didn't want to stay for my last year. I was ready to get out in the world and use my degree. So after school with nursing, you have to take what's called a licensure exam. So they don't tell you, in school, when you're like, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a nurse, you think, oh, after you get your degree, give me a job, please. That's not how it works. They want you to get your degree, and then they want you to further prove yourself by taking a big exam to show that you know what you're talking about, as if the 4 or however many years it took you to get the degree doesn't count, and you gotta still take this big test. So if you're in school now and you can't stand taking tests, which I didn't like taking tests, but you're not going to be able to run away from tests. Like, you're forever going to work your butt off in life, and someone is going to tell you, okay, so now take a test and prove that all the years that you worked hard, you know what you're talking about. Can't escape it. The life is a test itself. So can't run away from that and get used to that. So I had like some family issues going on, and I did not study like I should have. Usually I'm pretty good in school. I was feeling myself a little too much and thought that I could just take this test and pass and be fine. No, that's not what happened. I failed my licensure test the first time I took it, and I was crushed because I have never failed no test before, and my feelings were hurt. So instead of feeling bad for myself and being like, oh, I can't do this, I started thinking about how much money and how much time I had put in. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a nurse. I didn't work too hard. I didn't gave up too much time. All the nights I didn't party with my friends, I'm going to be a nurse. So I studied real hard for like 2 more weeks. Studied hard. Like I was averaging maybe 200 test questions a day. I was studying hard. And after 2 weeks, I went and retook the test, and I passed. So after I passed, I was actually a mental health technician at Cedar Ridge, and it's a behavioral health hospital for at-risk youth. So I could work with kids as young as 5 and as old as 17. The unit that I was working on was for teenagers. So I worked with 13-year-olds to 17-year-olds on an acute adolescent unit, and I loved it. Them was my babies. I loved it. They helped me grow up a lot. So that hospital that I was working as a mental health technician, they actually offered me a job to be a nurse there. So I was so happy, the kids were happy because I got to stay there, which they always call me Miss M. So now they were so excited for me because they were like, oh, now we can call you Nurse M. So it was nice to kind of grow up with them and kind of show them too, because they were along with that ride with me when I was studying, and they were like, oh, what you gonna do? And I was like, be a nurse. And so it was nice for me to be able to tell them like, hey, y'all, I didn't pass. And they were sad for me. They're like, okay, are you gonna retake it? Like, they believed me more than I did myself. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna retake it. And they're like, when? I'm like, I'm gonna wait and study a little bit. But it was nice to explain that to them and kind of show them that in life, it's not going to always be, roses and happiness. Like, you're going to have some hard times, but you just can't dwell on them. So then I did nursing there for about a year, and I had decided that I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. The thing about being a nurse practitioner is they want you to have a different kind of experience. I had only had experience in psych with acute, adolescent, those kids. So I needed to get into that program, and I needed to get more experience. So I got a job at the VA, and that's on a medical surgical unit. And then I've been there ever since, and I got into my program. I'm actually at Northwestern Oklahoma State University, and that's in Oklahoma. And I'm in my second year. It's a 3-year program. I'm doing full-time there, and I'm still working full-time. So nothing has really changed on that end. I'm still doing a lot of things, really busy, but that's what works for me. If I don't stay busy, I won't get it done. So that's what I'm doing currently. I'm in my nurse practitioner program, and I'm also working full-time. So I have a year and a half left, and then I'll be a nurse practitioner.
Then I'm going to ask you a question that I ask all of our guests, and that is, how much money do you make?
Okay, yes. I remember being you guys grade and wondering, like, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but how much do you make? So right now I make salary. I make $77,000 a year. And that's as being a nurse. So that's about $36 an hour. And that's with me, paying my bills and stuff. But as an MP, because I looked it up, not much has changed. I want to know how much money I'm going to make. I'm doing this schooling. How much on average am I going to make? So in Oklahoma, a family nurse practitioner, which is what I'm going for, makes about $90,000 to $100,000 a year. But I want to do a specialty and go back to psych because that's what I enjoy. That's what I love. And they can make up to $120,000 a year in Oklahoma. Mind you, if I move, way more. They have nurses in California that are making easy $90,000, $100,000 right now. But you got to factor in cost of living and all those things. So that's what I'm looking at right now. $77,000. I'm looking at a possibility of $120,000. So that's the goal.
You have how many years of experience?
As a nurse right now, I'm only 3 years, a little over 3 years. So I'll be going on 4 years in 4 more months. I'll be a nurse for 4 years. As far as experience before I was a nurse, 3 years, because I did technically 4, because I started my first year of college in high school. So 4 years of college, now 4 years as a nurse, and then I'll be a nurse practitioner with no experience, but we'll try and fix that.
To put that in perspective for our students, this is my 5th year teaching, and I have a master's degree, and you don't have your master's degree yet.
Nope.
And I make $45,000 a year, right? So you're making like $32,000 more than me without a master's degree and with less experience. So that's just something for them to think about, why science class matters, right? Because if you want to make money, all right. Somebody wants to know, why did you decide to be a nurse?
I decided to be a nurse because I wanted more time with family. Like I said, when I was you guys' age, I told my mom, I was like, I'm gonna be a pediatrician. I'm gonna be a doctor. That's what I want to do. And I really did it just because I was always told doctors made a lot of money. So I was like, well, I like science. I want to pick a career that's making a lot of money. But then when I started doing my research, doctors have to do a lot of classes. So unlike how with me, it took me, a few years, doctors have to do almost double that. And then they also have to pay for school. So some of the doctors that I know, they're not even enjoying how much money they make right now because they're paying off their debt from school. And then they also have crazy hours, which depending on your lifestyle, if that's something you want, you want to make your money and you know that you're going to be at the hospital most of the time or you're going to be on call, if that's a lifestyle you want, I say go for it. But I knew that I was the type of person that I didn't want to miss things with my siblings. My brothers are a lot younger than me, so I didn't want to miss games. I don't want to be with my family and answering my call every day for someone to ask me for some Tylenol. I don't want that. So that's what made me be like, okay, how can I help people still incorporate a science background, but be able to care for people and make a difference? And I felt like nursing was the closest to that.
Yeah, that's real. Wanting to have that balance in your life. Someone wants to know if you like your job.
My job at the VA. I like what I do. The population that I serve, and I'm gonna feel so bad for this. I'm a nurse at, like I said, Veterans Affairs. So I care for veterans. These are, people who have fought for our country in some sort or fashion. And most of my patients are age is probably like 70 years old on average. So these are 70-year-old. Majority of the population are Caucasian men. So I take care of, on average, a majority of 70-year-old plus Caucasian men. And a lot of them, their mindsets are still stuck back to 50, 60 years ago. And it's not their fault. They grew up in an era where things were way different than they are now. So I kind of have to bite my tongue a lot with my patients, but I try to remember what I'm there for. I'm there to help them. And I love my coworkers. I love the benefits with my job, and I love changing their perspective because, like I said, these people grew up back in the early 1900s where things were not the way they are now. So when I come in and they see a different face and are expected to conduct themselves differently, it's kind of cool to kind of see how these years of training, like, mental training that they've had kind of like changes because they notice that things are different and they know that I'm there to help them. So that part of my job is very rewarding.
That brings us to my next question. Can you tell me how being Black has affected your career? I ask everybody that.
Okay. Honestly, to be frank, I always get about it always goes three ways. The first way, most of them don't even notice that I am Black. If I don't have my hair in braids or if I don't have my natural hair out, like if I decide I want to wear a sew-in or something, most of them either assume I'm super tanned or that I'm mixed. A lot of people assume I'm mixed. I'm not. Both my dad and my mom are Black. I just came out high yellow. I don't know how to explain that. But they always assume that. Or here recently, I have a lot of patients who assume I'm the help. They don't assume I'm the nurse. I love when I walk in and they're like, can you go find the nurse? And I'm like, hey, you're looking at her. How can I help you? What's going on? So that's always funny. And a lot of people don't even realize they do it. It's just an assumption. You see me come in and most of the time I have my hair natural. I've got my big puff ball. I love my natural self. So I come in with my hair poofy and they don't think I'm the nurse. That's been something. Also, in the science world, hopefully that'll change soon. But a lot of times at the African American population, we are the minority in STEM and in science, and a lot of those topics and career standpoints as well. So if you're not used to kind of being the oddball or the minority, it can be kind of discouraging sometimes. When I started getting closer into my career, I started seeing less of my friends. I started seeing less and less of people that look like me, that come from where I come from. So that was it kind of made me sad at first, but I kind of took it as a challenge of, okay, if I can do this, I want to make it easier for girls and guys who look like me, who come from where I come from.
I think it's helpful for everyone to hear how that does have an impact on your job, because let's pretend that I was making $75,000 a year as a nurse, and I walked into the room. I bet they would assume that I was the nurse, you know?
They would assume you were the doctor.
Right. Yeah. And that's I mean, okay, yeah, they would assume I'm the doctor, and that might have as much to do with sexism as racism, but it's all connected, you know. What do you wish you would have known when you were in middle school science class?
What I wish I would have known when I was in middle school science class is that a lot of the stuff that I learned in middle school, I learned in college. They make it seem like college is so hard, and it is challenging. But a lot of the things that I'm like, oh man, I feel like I learned this in middle school. It just adds on to it. So if you really understand the basics of science in middle school, when you get to college, or in my case, when you get to high school and you go and take these college courses, you feel more prepared. So I think if I would have known, hey, like college is hard, but if I understand this stuff right now, I'm going to be super prepared in college. I think I would have paid more attention to it. And I think I would have tried harder to understand it back in middle school. So when I get to high school and college, it'd be like cake for me.
I try to make my class hard enough that if they do a good job and they get to high school, they will be prepared, right? So I think sometimes they're like, oh, Mr. Hofkamp, this is too hard. What are you doing? We do too much work. Do you think you do more or less work than a junior high science student?
I definitely do less. I feel like in middle school, our science, at least our science teacher in middle school, she was hard. We had quizzes every week. We had projects, and I couldn't stand group projects. I'm say it, I couldn't stand them because I always felt like I got stuck doing most of the work. So if you're one of those people, help your friends. You're not helping your friends by doing all the work, because when you get to high school and college, they're going to be by themselves. So if it's a group project, learn how to split the responsibilities. But yeah, I definitely do less. I thought that, like I said, college was hard, but at the same time, I feel like middle school and high school was so much harder. The hardest thing about college is just getting up, because you don't have your mama or your daddy or your grandma or your auntie shaking you and saying, get up, you're gonna miss the bus. Like, you miss class, you miss class. And it's not good. When I first got there, I was like, okay, I don't have nobody telling me to go to sleep. I don't have nobody telling me get up and go to school. If I don't feel good, I ain't going. Middle school and high school were harder just because you had people there to keep you accountable. The homework assignments had more of them. In college, they'll give you an assignment that's due 2 months later, and then you forget about it and trying to put it together. At least in middle, more steady. You're doing assignments every week. You're actually learning, and your teachers actually care enough to make sure you're learning. In college, I'm not saying that professors don't care, because you will get some professors that are really, you feel like they're there for you, but they are not going to hold your hand.
But I don't know what to tell my students now when they say that their class is too hard. So what should I tell them then?
I think that you should tell them that it's hard now so that it can be easy later. I'd rather be mad at my middle school science teacher and then, reach out to them years down the line and be like, thank you. Like, it's kids in these classes that are struggling, and I'm saying, oh, I learned this in middle school. This is easy breezy.
Thank you. That's a better that's nicer for me. Somebody wants to know if you ever stop loving being a nurse, if you ever wish you were something else.
No, I love nursing. I love what it can do. Also, because with nursing, I could fall out of love with the type of nurse that I am. But with science, I can always be a different type of nurse. Like, for instance, right now I'm a medical surgical nurse. So if I decide, oh, this is not for me, I could be a psych nurse. I could be a labor and delivery nurse. I could be a clinical nurse. There's just so much that you can do with nursing. A geriatric, nurse. It's I like having an occupation that if I get tired of it, I can move to different things. And you can always go up, with nursing. We have LPNs. You have RNs. You have RNs who have their associates. You have RNs who have their bachelors. You can be a nurse practitioner in this case, and that's an advanced practice nurse. I like where I can go up. I don't ever want to be stagnant somewhere. So to answer the question, I haven't fallen out of love with nursing. I almost feel like it's impossible to fall out of love with nursing because there's just so much I can do. So no, I love nursing. Haven't fallen out of love with it yet. Hopefully I never fall out of love with it until I retire. And that is a big goal of mine. I want to retire.
One more question from the chat. Do you have any kids?
Ooh, I do not. I don't have kids. I want them. I just want to get out of school first. I'm 26, so it's nothing, there's nothing wrong if you have children. It's not wrong with that. When you get older and you decide you want to have children, me personally, I'm still kind of selfish. I'm still hungry for things. I still want to do things. So I want to make sure when I become a mom, that I can really pay attention to my kids, be there for my kids, and tell them to do their science homework.
That's awesome. Last question. What advice do you have? Anything you want to add?
Get involved. My biggest advice would just be get involved and make good decisions. You're young, so there's going to be decisions that you make and you're going to learn from them. But I know at my school, I have a lot of friends who were doing cool things back then, not really paying attention in school, having a good time. And now we are in completely different areas of life. And I'm happy that I chose one where I was active in school. I was listening in school. You can still be cool. I still have those friends, and they're still my friends now. Only difference between me and my friends is I'm 26 making 77,000 a year and they struggling. So what I would tell you guys is you can be cool, you can be popular, you can have friends, you can have fun, but buckle down and get your books, do what it is you want to do and then prioritize. You can still do all those things. You can still be where you want to be, but make time for business. In life, it's time for business and it's time for play. I make time for play, but I guarantee you my business is taken care of. So start making those habits in middle school where you take care of your business, then go have fun. Shoot, if you know you want to go to a party or hang out with your friends, it's the weekend, but you got a paper due on Monday, finish your paper on Thursday or Friday, so Saturday and Sunday you can have fun. Prioritize. You can have both.
Wow, thank you so much. Here at our school, we say asante to say thank you, or asante sana to say thank you very much. That is Swahili for thank you. And it was such a pleasure to talk to you today.